Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We're also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
This episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are recapping the conference championship games, letting you know who was right and who was wrong this week. Jeff will go over points of interest, and then maybe we'll talk about something else fun next. But first, we have our latest NFL league news, starting with the most recent coaching hires. Jeff, what's up first here?
So the first one here was the Steelers officially hire Mike McCarthy as their head coach. They even had the introductory press conference, and it does appear that there is some hope and some reason to believe that Aaron Rodgers could be back with the Steelers in 2026. What are your thoughts there, Alex?
Didn't Aaron Rodgers say that Mike McCarthy is one of the dumbest coaches ever?
Once upon a time, but they've never been closer, according to both of them. They've both grown up.
They've both grown up, both been kicked out of Green Bay.
It's true.
Well,
it is true.
Well,
that was like 20 years ago now.
It feels like it. I do think McCarthy's building a better staff than I would have expected, but it's an uninspiring hire. It's a Steelers team that doesn't want to rock the boat. They want to be stable, but this time they want the stability on the offensive side. We'll see if that works out for them. I think there's still going to be a middle-of-the-pack team, borderline playoff team, maybe, if they can bring Rodgers back, but I don't like it, and I don't like them going back to Rodgers.
And it seems like he's moderately excited about Will Howard also, so we always forget that they drafted a quarterback and they never played him because he was injured in the preseason, and he just never played in the regular season at all either.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic about Howard. I know a lot of people are trying to compare Howard and his college stats to Mendoza, and they're just two different quarterbacks, and I don't think Howard pushes things vertical, so I don't think he's going to work out, but they're welcome to try.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's worth a shot, and we know the longer you sit, sometimes the more successful you are coming off the bench too, so he may have another year to learn, and that might actually really help him. All right, let's hop to the next one here where the Bills promote their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to their head coaching position. Alex, I'm going to let you get kicked off with this because I believe you're a lot more pessimistic than I am on this one.
Well, they made a lot of comments in their press conference with the owner and Brandon Beane, the GM, about the coaching staff was the ones that pushed for Keon Coleman, not Brandon Beane. And then they talk about wanting to change directions. They pursued these other coaches, and then it seems like after they fired McDermott, they panicked and just promoted the one guy that would accept Brandon Beane as the general manager, and that's the guy already on the staff, Joe Brady, who is one of the coaches that probably had a say in drafting Keon Coleman, and who called the play calls that had all the turnovers, and who called the uninspiring play call in overtime that got them nowhere, lost in the game, and was also the offensive coordinator last year when they didn't progress in the playoffs. So it doesn't seem like they're doing anything different here. It just seems like it's going to be more of the same. And I know you have a different take, but if I'm a Bills fan, I'm scratching my head at this promotion.
Yeah, and I'm not, because he did run out the fourth best offense last year in points and in yards, the number one rush offense. And he's going to know more than anybody what this offense is missing and needing to take to the next step. And he may not have had that say as a first time offensive coordinator that he will now as the head coach. And I like the organization moving in offensive front versus defensive. As a defensive coordinator that McDermott was prior, very disappointed with his defenses, playing the bend but don't break mentality. And I believe that the right defensive coordinator hire plus Joe Brady running the offense, plus adding an elite weapon, could be more than enough to get the Bills over the hump. And to your point, I will concede that we don't know what different decisions that Joe Brady will make, if they're going to be better, if they're going to be worse, if they're going to be the same. So he is a different human being than Sean McDermott, so he will make different decisions, but we will see what they are.
Hopefully he doesn't make 9/11 references like Sean McDermott did in the past.
Absolutely.
All
Anything
right.
else on this hire?
I don't dislike Brady. It's just this is the opposite of what the ownership said that they wanted to do. That's the only thing that I question about this, really. All right, let's move on to the next head coach hire. Browns hired Todd Monken as their head coach. I'm a little surprised by this. They said that they wanted to go young. Then there was all these talking heads and rumors talking about Schwartz was gaining steam, their defensive coordinator, to be promoted. They did not go the Bills route here. They did not promote their coordinator. They hired their division rivals offensive coordinator who was set to join the Giants and his former boss Harbaugh before getting a head coaching job. So interesting move here. I don't know if it's an upgrade over Kevin Stefanski, but I think the well was a little bit poisoned there in Cleveland with Stefanski, so I guess they had to make a change. But now they're likely to lose their defensive coordinator, who's a little upset he didn't get hired. Jeff, what do you make of the Todd Monken hire?
So I had believed that Jim Schwartz was going to be the head coach here just because he was forcing his way into that role, because what is happening is what he was threatening. And they still went with the Todd Monken route, which I think he's a grown up in the room, which is a big deal. And do I know if he's an upgrade on Stefanski? No. But I know that he's not as burnt out as Stefanski was at the end of his tenure with the Browns. So fresh can sometimes mean better, even temporarily. So I think both Stefanski going to the Falcons and Monken here going to the Browns is a net positive for the Browns and a net positive for Stefanski. So believe that they're both gonna do better without each other right now.
Yeah, I'm curious about Monken. I do think he's a better coach than people probably give him credit for, and he might actually be better without having a super mobile quarterback, to be honest. Maybe Lamar Jackson was limiting his game planning instead of the other way around. So we'll see how he does. Hopefully he's not a sacrificial lamb after one season. And hopefully, even if the young quarterbacks on the roster don't work out this year, hopefully he gets to stay on next year to draft a quarterback that he wants.
And he's lucky this year because he gets 2 first-round picks, because I believe they acquired Jacksonville's first last for this year.
Yep.
And so they should be able to add some talent this year. And that defense is already pretty stacked as long as they can promote within and keep the Schwartz system going one more season, even if a light version of it.
Anthony Weaver is still out there. Sean McDermott, who is taking some time off, apparently. He's still available, might be able to be lured back, who knows? So there are candidates out there.
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to only accept head coaching gigs right now and not put himself through a whole season of being a defensive coordinator right now. So, sounds like it.
We'll see. Maybe he can go be Tampa Bay's head coach next year after they fire Boyles. So
Yeah, I wonder if they just promote Robinson, though, as who's their new offensive coordinator, which we talked about last week.
well, speaking of offensive coordinators, we have a slew of offensive coordinator hires that happened this week. Mike McDaniel made it official with the Los Angeles Chargers to be their new head coach. This is great news for Herbert, and this is a really good get for the Chargers who upgrade over Greg Roman. And McDaniel gets to coach Justin Herbert, who his team could have selected over Tua in the same draft class.
Right.
I
He
know
was not
Tua.
part of he was not part of the selecting team.
Yeah, that's true. I just think it's funny that Herbert was the same draft class as Tua.
Absolutely. Just the way that came out sounded like he was part of the brass that selected Tua, and that's not
No,
true. He called
the
Tua
floor.
the day he got hired and was like, "I'm excited to work with you."
Yeah, the Flores regime are the ones that took Tua and then destroyed his hope and soul before McDaniel came.
He made him respectable over a 4,000-yard passing season. With he did the
Just the
right things for
concussions,
him. Yeah,
just the concussions derailed everything.
I think McDaniel's gonna put Herbert in a position to succeed. That's what he did with Tua. He put him in a position to succeed, and that's gonna look different than what was with Tua. But maybe that means that Quentin Johnston runs the Tyreek route. We will. We will.
All right. And the Dolphins then even they kept Bobby Slowick and they promoted him to OC. So Bobby Slowick, I believe he was like a pass game coordinator for the Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. Now he stays even under the new coaching staff and becomes OC. He does have 2 years of experience doing it in Houston. So maybe he has evolved a little bit, but that's an interesting move, don't you think?
I think it's a net positive for Chan and any of the holdovers that are there that they may be used relatively similar to what they were before. But because I know that'll be one question going through everyone's head. Where do we rank Achan with all of these coaching changes?
I honestly I can't settle on an answer to that right now.
And that's totally fair. Yeah, he has a chance to get similar usage now with keeping some of the same coaching staff from last year, at least being heavily involved in the pass game.
All right. The Titans were able to hire Brian Dable as their new offensive coordinator, and I think that is an excellent fit with Cam Ward. I mean, we know Dable works some magic with Josh Allen to get Josh Allen initially productive, and we know he kind of had some success with Daniel Jones before Daniel Jones moved on from the Giants, and he was looking pretty good with the rookie there, Jackson Dart, in New York until he got fired. So I think he'll work well with Ward. The Giants apparently tried to trade up to get Ward before they ended up getting Dart in that draft class. So he gets to play with his first choice quarterback.
It's pretty cool. I hope they bring some of the swagger that the Giants were starting to bring once Jackson Dart hit the lineup, and I think him and Robert Saleh will be a great team.
Yeah. I I I'm glad Brian Dable didn't end up in Philadelphia, where I feel like that would be fire and gasoline with him and Sirianni. I mean, that would have been entertaining on one hand, but I felt like it was always going to be either the Titans as the OC or the Bills as the head coach.
Fair, very fair. And I don't see how someone jumps ship from one division rival to the other season to season. Like there's that hatred and that rivalry in your soul, and jump over to them after the season would be
But could you
rough.
imagine though if he got the Eagles back to the Super Bowl as their offensive coordinator and made their offense function? It'd kind of be the
Uh,
a little salute to the Giants for
all
letting
that
him
does,
go.
all that does is keep Sirianni in the head coaching job. One more year. And I'm not for anything that does that right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to their hire here in a second, which is very uninspiring. But where do you think the Titans go in year one with Salah and Dable?
It's hard to quantify what they'll be year one, but I think they try to keep both of them for at least the first 2 years together. And I think that Ward will look better, and I think that the offense will look better. I think the defense will look better. I just don't know how much. We got to see the draft. We have to see what they do in free agency. I believe they're one of the teams that has a ton of cap space, and they have a high first. So they have the opportunity to improve a lot between cap space, draft capital, and better coaching.
Agreed. And I just hope the energy is good there, because if it is there, then both could choose to stay longer. I mean, Salah's obviously tied there, but Dable could get a promotion at any point. But I hope that their synergy is so good that they do want to come back for a year or two and kind of run it back. My other thought is that the defense is going to get better with Salah, and the offense is going to get better with Dable. They're kind of, in a weird way, co-head coaches, because Salah's going to probably stay completely out of the offense, and Salah's going to call the defensive plays this time around, which he has made a note that he did not do that with the Jets, and he felt like he was just the timeout and red flag guy, and he does not want to be just that going forward. So I do think that they're co-head coaches, even though one is the head coach and one's the offensive coordinator, but that's how it feels to me.
I appreciate that he's hiring an all bald staff, so I feel like I could fit right in that group too.
An all New York staff.
That yeah, seems like that too.
They probably had offices that were relatively close to each other, and they probably talked all of the time. I don't think this is a coincidence that they ended up in the same place at the same time again together. I think they built a relationship previously.
It could be.
All about relationships. But as I was alluding to a few minutes ago, the Eagles finally find their offensive coordinator after they struck out on a slew of them, and they hire the Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion. And are they hanging their hat on the development that he did for Malik Willis, or are they hanging the work that he's done on Jordan Love year over year so far?
I guess it could be either one, Jeff, but either way, they want to give Jalen Hurts one more shot, and they hired a coach that they think can bring him back to production.
I hope so, because he lost it this year. Like, some 100-yard passing games, no rushing. Like, I don't know what to do with him in Dynasty at this point. I have him in one league, and I don't know if it's time to bail or if it's time to keep him, because he was still a top 5 fantasy scoring quarterback, I believe. I would have to double check that, but I do remember looking at one point and I was like, how is he that high on fantasy scoring when he's not getting rushing touchdowns or passing touchdowns? He actually finished quarterback 9, but it feels like he should be a lot lower than quarterback 9.
Yeah. All right. Defensive coordinator hires. Speaking of Packers, they hired former Arizona head coach Jonathan Gannon as their new defensive coordinator. This might be a good hire. He's definitely been better as a coordinator and a defensive guy than he has a head coach. So, I mean, it makes it seem like a no-brainer hire. Commanders hired Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. Could be all
Ooh.
right. Jets hire Brian Duker as defensive coordinator, and they were pursuing Mark Wink Martindale, and he did not want Aaron Glenn to call the plays. They already had an arrangement. He showed up, and Aaron Glenn said, "Change of plans. I want to call plays." And Wink said, "Peace." So here we are.
So this was like a little bit of like the Aaron Rodgers situation where they flew him in just to fire him, and peace.
I mean, Jets are a disaster. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Some of it's Aaron Glenn, though, with the way that he delivers news to people and the way that he communicates to people.
I never thought he was going to be a good head coach, and it's so painfully obvious that he's not, and they're still keeping him, even though they basically are going to fire his entire staff.
Start over without a new head coach. That
Like,
just tells me
I,
that the owner doesn't want to pay a second or a third head coach.
it's dumb. It's dumb.
It is. It is. But also in the news, the Steelers verbally agree with Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator. He came over from the Raiders, I think, in the same spot. So, how do you feel about Patrick Graham to the Steelers?
Well, I saw a graphic that he had some of the lowest paid defenses compared to the rest of the league. and produce really well with that. So that tells me he's one of these coaches that can get the most out of whatever talent he's given. So there's a
Steelers
good
are the
chance,
highest paid defense too.
yeah, that as well. So
So he's going from low paying to high paid divas
yeah, but highest paid defense doesn't equate necessarily to good either. I mean, sometimes that's overpaid free agents
and divas.
and divas, yeah. So if he's given good talent, I think he can be a really good coordinator.
Absolutely. And the last bit of league news is the Falcons hire Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham as their new GM. But the rumor is out there that the Bears will not get compensation for this back due to the supplemental pick system because Ian Cunningham will not be their top executive. That'll be Matt Ryan. And you have to go to be the top executive in order to qualify for that.
That's
All
silly.
these
It should just be
caveats.
promotions.
Yep.
But
All these
whatever.
caveats. Hate caveats.
He's been a hot name for a couple of years, so it makes sense.
Absolutely. I hate the Bills couldn't interview Clint Kubiak because they didn't interview him the first week of the playoffs. But the Raiders and the Cardinals can do second interviews with him this week. And like, what's
It's
that
dumb.
rule?
Well, I like the idea that you already threw out that nobody should have coaching hires until after the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Why are we putting teams that are good, coaches that are good at a disadvantage? We should always want the best coaches coaching. So if you believe
Yeah.
that they're on those teams, we should just wait. Everyone's going to be lining up for Josh McDaniels again, right?
I've already told you the Raiders should fix their problem with rehiring all of the coaches they fired and are still on the payroll to come back and do the job.
There you go. Gruden, Harrell, Years, and McDaniels. But yeah, we have two vacancies left, the Raiders and the Cardinals. And I don't know what they're waiting for because if they're both waiting for the same guy, that seems pretty foolish because one of them's not going to get that guy.
One or both.
Yeah, it could be both. So we will see. There's going to be some good jobs open next year. I just have a feeling. I feel like the cheap Bengals will finally get rid of their coach if they have another bad year.
We think. I mean, how many bad years did they have with Marvin Lewis and they kept him?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Wasting Joe Burrow's youth and prime and making him a 4-time comeback player of the year is their goal.
All right. Are we ready to break down the championship games?
We are.
All right, let's go over to the AFC Championship, the first matchup of the weekend. The number 2 overall Patriots at the number 1 overall Broncos. Jeff, we both picked the Patriots. We both were correct. Not a fun game, though.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The Patriots win a game that turned into Snowmageddon, 10-7. This game started out very green and very pleasant, and by the end of it, you could not even see the numbers on the field. That is a good, healthy snow as someone that lives in a snowband area to get that much snow that quickly during the course of 3 hours. That's pretty impressive. So impressive that Drake May only threw for 86 yards in this game, and he rushed for another 65. The legend of Mac Hollins is alive and well because he was the lead receiver in this one for the Patriots. I believe he had like 50 or 60 of the 86 yards receiving. Stidham actually does better than May in his spot start with 133 yards passing. Mims was the leading receiver in the loss. The big difference here was a ruling by the refs that Stidham had thrown a backwards pass, and New England promptly scored on a rushing touchdown right after that. But let's talk about before that play, the previous Broncos drive where Sean Payton decided not to kick a field goal up 7-0. He could have went up 10-0. As you may know, the Patriots only scored 10 points in this game, so at a minimum, you would have had a tie. But this is not hindsight just speaking. Alex can attest that I did text him in the moment that I said that was a mistake, not going for 3 there, because that you take the points with the backup in the playoffs. Like, what's your take on this here, Alex? Like, why would Sean Payton do this?
I'm sure he thought that it was going to be a very competitive game and the Patriots were going to score points, so he wanted to get ahead, but it didn't make sense. I would have kicked the field goal too, and I don't know why he didn't. I don't know why he thought it was going to be a crazy high scoring game. Trust your defense at least a little bit. But I want to know what you thought of the backwards pass, because when it happened, they said, what was it? It wasn't
Incomplete.
initially a fumble, right? It was an interception. Is that what they called it first?
No, they called it incomplete.
Incomplete pass.
Yeah, because it hit the ground.
No. They called it intentional grounding first.
Yep.
They called it
But that
intentional
shouldn't
grounding.
have been that either.
They call it intentional grounding. And I was like, how could it be intentional grounding? He got hit when he threw it. So it's either a fumble or an incomplete pass. Those are the only two options it could be.
Mm-hmm.
He was out of the box, hit when he threw it. It's only one of those two. Was it going forward or did it come out? And then they completely went with split down the middle where it's backwards pass. What do you think? Was that the right decision?
I mean, I don't see how Broncos fans could be happy with that decision. And if it went the other way, I don't see how Patriots could have been fans could have been happy with that decision. It was so close. And I know I've said this a few times, but I would prefer to defer to the offense on super close plays because that's so punitive to a team. And I think it was tipped going forward. But what do I know there?
Yeah, I think it was an incomplete pass. I also think it was a reckless and stupid attempt at a throw. Like,
Agreed.
because he had it and then he pulled it in and then he shoved it out. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's why
It's
you're a
morphin'
backup
time.
and you're not yeah. That's why you're a backup and not a starter. This is
He
the
was trying to
dumbest
be a
thing I've ever
starter.
seen. But it was still a forward, it's still a forward incomplete pass, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I don't like a play like that being so punitive to the offense that could have been a coin toss play. And lo and behold, the Patriots scored what, 2 plays later? And
Yep.
Drake May scampered in with a run. And I mean, I wasn't rooting for either team. I just wanted to see a good game and it had me on the edge of my seat. Unfortunately, the Broncos' ability to go tie the game was hindered by snow and a block kick. Once they were behind and that kick was blocked, the game in my head was over because they weren't able to like move the ball at all at that point. So in my head, like unless they got a defensive play or a defensive turnover, there's no chance of them winning this game, even if they got the ball back. So unfortunate, but Sean Payton did make a few heads roll for this loss, and I think some of them were not justified, but he loves to keep coaching staffs and players on their toes and not let them get comfortable. And this is just another example of that.
All right. What about the NFC Championship, which was really the NFC West Championship? The
Hey,
number 5 Rams at the number 1 Seahawks.
well,
Jeff?
previously in the NFC, the Seahawks had to go through their division rival, the 49ers. And this week, they had to face the Rams. And I had picked the Rams, and you had picked the Seahawks. And I did that because the Seahawks, I didn't believe, were very tested during the 49ers game. And they had the week off before, so I thought they would come out a little bit sluggish. But that was not true. The Seahawks ended up winning 31-27, and they actually used a defensive stop to end the Rams' comeback because they were storming back in this game, and Stafford threw for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns in what could be his last NFL game. He's still undecided about coming back, but he is under contract with the Rams next season if he does come back. Corum outran and outproduced Kyron Williams in this game. And I don't know if that lays out any potential concern for 2026, but that is definitely on the radar for 2026. They're both under contract for the next 2 seasons at least. So, not thinking either is going to be off the roster, but this could be much closer to a 50-50 split than we're comfortable with. Rounding out the Rams here, Puka goes off for 165 and a touchdown, and Adams does contribute as well, who's under contract next year as well for 89 and a touchdown. And then flipping it over to the Seahawks, Darnold matched Stafford with 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. This was a statement game by Sam Darnold because this is the game that people said that he's never been able to have in the most clutch of moments. And he actually had a huge game in a very clutch moment. And I feel like this is a good sign for Sam Darnold going forward because I know he got a lot of flack when Detroit and the Vikings played last year, and he didn't do anything against the 49ers because he didn't have to. Ken Walker ran decently in this one, 62 yards and a touchdown. Would have liked a little bit more yardage there for a bet that I had, but I'll let that one go. ASN lights it up with 153 yards and a touchdown, and the Seahawks head into a familiar building in Santa Clara, California to play the New England Patriots in a rematch of Super Bowl 49.
It was the Rams last season that knocked Darnold and the Vikings out of the playoffs. So he did get a little bit of revenge with Seattle this time.
Yeah, revenge game.
So honestly, I might change my stance where I was going to take only the AFC team, but the way the playoffs have played out, I don't feel good, and I don't like how the Patriots have gotten here. So I don't want them to win a Super Bowl either. Now I want Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for Seattle, to get a Super Bowl. I'm sure you want Darnold to get a Super Bowl. And I think Seattle's the better team.
Darnold or Vrabel. You know I'm a big Vrabel guy. It does pain me, but that he's part of New England now. But I'm a big Vrabel
Well,
guy.
I've been shocked how little you've talked about Vrabel almost this whole season.
Because you stole my thunder voting him for Coach of the Year before the season started. Like, where am I supposed to go from there? I picked Sean McDermott and he's fired.
Is that why you're so eager to go after him? Is because he's not going to win that award, so you're like, he's dead to me?
Yep, donezo. But I will say I am a big Sam Darnold fan, and he deserves this. The Jets were a horrible, horrible experience for him, and I think that franchise. We talk about how bad Aaron Glenn is. I think that franchise has been bad since the moment Rex Ryan left that organization, and that is saying something. And I don't know exactly what, but
Well, and it was bad before he got there too. So Rex Ryan's the best coach that they've had in like the last 30 years.
yep. And that's saying something because no one's ever really given him another opportunity. I think the Bills did for 2 seasons, but I would like to see Darnold and the Seahawks win their first Super Bowl together, especially Mike McDonald. I do think that there's plenty of time for Vrabel and May to be back there. They were never, ever, ever expected to be in this position this quickly. And it might be to their detriment that they were here this quickly. So they may take a little step back next year. But this team is not Vrabel's team right now. Like the staff, yes, but the players, no. He was still cycling through them. He cut Peppers just before the season started. Like he is still cycling through to get his team in here. And this is not supposed to happen when you're in the middle of a transition like that. And as you had noted offline, the Patriots have either played a replaced coach or the Jets, or what was the other team that they had played that was on their schedule? But
it just said NFC South twice.
Yep.
So
Yep. So they either played the NFC South, they played the Jets, or they played a team where a coach got let go from. So good
it technically
times.
includes the Bills and Dolphins, but yep. and they might have played Baltimore as well. Baltimore let their coach. So it's not like
Yeah.
it's the worst teams. It's just interesting that the majority of their matchups were to teams that ended up firing their coaches.
So I will say that they should have lost to Tyler Huntley when he replaced Lamar in that game. But Monken or Harbaugh, one or the other, decided not to ride Henry anymore when he was taking over that game. And he did not get like a fourth quarter carry after like 5 minutes in, and the most inexcusable, and that literally cost the Ravens a shot at the playoffs. And it should have been a win. They like gave it to the Patriots on a platter. But the Patriots' losses this season, one of them was against the Steelers, which you believe is a mid team. One of them was against the Raiders week 1, and we know that they're the number 1 overall pick. And the other one was Buffalo, where they had like a 28-3 lead or something on them. I know I just used the 28-3 lingo from the Super Bowl a few years ago, but they had quite a lead on the Bills, and they were trash talking left and right, and then they lost that lead in the game. So I don't know exactly what they are just yet.
They're a solid to good team. They're a well-balanced team. They're a team that spent a lot of money in free agency on defense, and it actually kind of worked. But other than that, I mean, they're not elite. I think Seattle is as close to elite for a roster as there is in the NFL, the 2025 to 2026 season.
No, I completely agree with that, and I do look forward to breaking down that matchup and the Senior Bowl next week. The last thing I will say about this matchup, or these two matchups here, is I think one team is very tested in the Seahawks, and I think one team is not tested all season in the Patriots. And I think that even their playoff run, they played Herbert with a busted up O line, which I didn't think was going to be a problem, but it ended up being a problem. But the bigger problem was they didn't have Omarion Hampton in that game. Like, we thought all week that Omarion Hampton was good to go, and he was a decoy at best in that matchup against the Patriots. And then you look at week 2, they play a melting CJ Stroud. And I know Patriots fans want to take credit for the CJ Stroud meltdown, but that was nothing more than a continuation of the previous week. Like, there was, they didn't do anything different. That he made poor decisions, period.
Yeah.
Poor decision after poor decision. Now, did they stop the run game in that game? Yes, they did. The run defense has been really good, and I probably would not bet the overs on Kenneth Walker in the playoffs for that reason. But and then you look at the last game. They're playing Jared Stidham in his first game in 2 years. And not for anything, but I believe that Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots when they drafted Jarrett Stidham. Because I believe he was drafted by the Patriots, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah. Well, he was at least on the Patriots roster beforehand.
So they should know him inside and out, and it's just so crazy that, like, where's the sense and pride in a victory like this? Like, you won by 3 points, you scored 10 total points, and the Bills, your defensive rival, scored 30 points against this defense the week before. So what that told me is they're not nearly as good as the Bills are offensively, and that's going to be a problem come the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, they might get blown out this Super Bowl. I got to think about it this week, but I think there's a good possibility that the Seahawks could be your next world champions. But
I think it's likely.
so he was a 4th-round pick in 2019 by the Patriots. 4th-round pick. He was supposed to be the Tom Brady successor after the trading of Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, the question is, was Josh McDaniel the offensive coordinator in 2019, or was he going through one of his stints of being a head coach on a football team that wasn't the Patriots. Maybe you know a little bit more
Regardless,
about that.
they should have won that game a little more commanding than what they did. If Bo Nix was there, I do wonder if Denver might have squeaked out a victory, even if it wasn't pretty. It is what it
Absolutely.
is.
And yeah, I think they should have won by more points. I think they should have won more by more points against the Chargers. So very, very scary situations, in my opinion. There.
All right. Well, we'll get to talk more about it next week. We'll do the Super Bowl preview as well as the Senior Bowl review, where we talk about a few Senior Bowl notables. But until then, that does it for another episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading or listening to this episode, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.